this is what problem number 1 should look like when you're finished. Just to review quickly, I've done the x factor. I have put negative 20 at the top because I multiplied a and c. I put 8 at the bottom because it was my b, and I'm multiplying to negative 20 and adding to 8. And that is 10 times negative 2, which gives me negative 20. And then 10 plus negative 2 gives me my positive 8. I take those two numbers and I have to divide them by 4 because I have a number other than 1 in front of my x squared. My leading coefficient is 4. I have to divide by 4. Whenever it's not 1, you have to divide by it. So now I reduce, I simplify, and I get 5 over 2, and then I get 1 over 2. So now I slide the 2 in front, then I slide the 2 in front, because 2/4 gives me 1/2. Now I have my two factors. I take those two factors and I set them equal to 0. 2x divided by 2 equals negative 5 over 2, which gives me x equals negative 5 over 2. I subtracted 5, then divided by 2. Here I added 1, and then divided by 2. X is 1/2. Okay, now I want to use the quadratic formula to see if these two answers up here are correct. Are these really my roots? I plug everything in. B was 8, so I just wrote negative, and then I put in B, which was 8, plus or minus the square root of, I put in B, I squared it. I don't need parentheses around B because it's not negative. Minus 4 times 8 times C. C is negative 5, not 5. Okay, then I divided it by 8 because it's 2 times A is 4. X equals negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 8 squared is 64. Negative 4 times 1 times negative 5 is a positive 80, so plus 80. That is minus 4, but when we're trying to figure it out, we're going to treat it as negative 4. Now that's 144 when I add 64 and 80. So I have negative 8 plus or minus the square root of 144 divided by 8. 144 becomes 12. The square root of 144 is 12. So now I have two problems. Negative 8 plus 12 over 8, negative 8 minus 12 over 8. And that gives me 1/2 and negative 5 over 2, which verifies that these two are correct. Now, I graph negative 1/2 and negative 5 over 2 because they are my roots. And I've done that on a separate piece of graph paper. And I labeled. Now I graph the y-intercept. Well, the y-intercept is always the value of C. So I plot negative 5 on the y-axis. So I'm going to write an x here and a y here because that should have been on there. And this is the y-intercept. Okay, now let's find the vertex. We use negative b over 2a equals negative 8 over 2 times 4, which gives me negative 1. Now I take that x and plug it into the equation. So let me write the equation above this. Y equals 4x squared plus 8x minus 5. Plug in negative 1 in the x spot here and here. And when I multiply and add all of that together, I get negative 9. So now I have the vertex, negative 1 comma negative 9. When I put that together, that is the axis of symmetry, and that is the minimum for the problem. So I plot negative 1, 9, negative 1, negative 9, excuse me. I draw my axis of symmetry, which is red for this. My minimum, which I chose green. I don't care what colors you use. Okay, and then I noticed that this point was missing. But since this was one away, then that's one away. So then I plotted it. And I plot the point, and then I drew and sketched my parabola. That is what problem 1 should look like when you complete.